The Americans have their pickups. Of course, we have utes. GTP Supremo Ross Palmer has turned an Australian cultural symbol into an entire series in which our own Grant Denyer is a driver. You notice there the Strathfield countdown to race time is just over 2 hours, but in the meantime, some terrific action here from a remarkable series.
He was the quickest in qualifying, Woodsy, but the opening 2 races of the weekend haven't quite gone to plan for Grant Denyer. We'll update you. There he is, in fact, on screen right now. Very nervous
dog.
Yeah, Mad Dog Denyer. Very nervous father sitting beside us. He's looked after some big damage bills this year, haven't you?
Yes, I'm old mangy dog.
He's taken the blue healer out of the back, Dad.
Absolutely. Yeah, he did well in qualifying. Good pole position. Quite a surprise, I think, to everybody, but more so to Grant himself. And then, of all things, would you believe, he stalled it off the grid and went from first to last, and that had to claw his way back through the field. But a fabulous new concept, the R.M. Williams Brute Buster. And fans, I really believe you're going to see some great action in this race.
9 years ago, we were confronted by the sight of a ute on Mount Panorama here in one of the 12-hour production car races, and it's great to finally have them back.
Yeah, in fact, that was Alan Grice and Brad Jones that drove in the 12-hour race in a Holden ute some years ago. But this category debuted at the Clipsal 500 this year, and the fans just went absolutely crazy.
Final one for the weekend for the R.M. Williams V8 Brutes here on the mountain. Damien Ice White on pole position from Rod Wilson, the Pirelli tyres distributor here in Australia, the Motorsport tyres distributor.
Come on, Rusty, read it with a nickname. Robbo Robinson, the Don Donaher, Dazzler Palmer, Mad Dog Denyer, the Boss McDonald, and Macca McAllister.
Further back of the grid, Handlebars Kovacs, Dazzler McDonald, Brocky, James Brock, that's Peter Brock's son, Growler Young, Sinbad Gilbert, Cribbo Cribben, and the Predator, Noel Edge.
We'll be testing you at the end, gentlemen, on your...
Why did he pick Growler?
Special guest commentator joining us as well, last year's V8 Supercar 1000 winner, Jason Barguana. Welcome.
Yeah, g'day guys, how you going? I'd hate to think they'd call me.
Now, Jace, have you ever owned a ute in your previous motoring history?
Oh, look, back in the old days, we used to tow the Formula V around with an HQ ute with a rusted-out floor, so I reckon it'd qualify for this. We could have a bit of fun.
So, six-lapper, this is the third race you'll see here at Mount Panorama this weekend, and going back to the earlier race results, it was Damien Ice White that took the win in race 1. Steve Robinson from the Gold Coast race 2. Redline Wilson was third, I should say, in race 1. Then Ian McAllister, the young Holden, or a young Ford dealer from New South Wales, not far from Bathurst. Race 2, Mick the Don Donaher for Ford. Then Gary McDonald, Damien White, Rod Wilson. So at this stage, it's 2 Fords. We could well be looking for a Holden win this time around.
Each round of this championship has provided a little bit of controversy. The boys do like driving them at 11/10. There's been a few incidents and accidents, and I'm sure we'll see a bit of that today. The most recent round at Sandown, it was Mick Donaher who was in the thick of things.
Yeah, he carved a lot of people up. In fact, he copped a $1,000 fine for turning Damien White around, and then Damien White copped a $1,000 fine for trying to turn
He turned into Rocky Balboa, didn't he?
Yes, he got a call actually from Don King straight after that with a very, very firm offer.
It's just amazing when you think about it. I mean, the utility, the sedan-based ute is an Australian invention developed by Ford back in the 1930s. It's taken till the year 2001 to come up with the idea of racing utes. It's incredible it's taken that long to figure it out.
And quite surprising how quick they are. They're very, very much a control package in terms of control tyres, standard wheels, control springs and shocks on the car. They run a button clutch and a spool diff and a Motec engine management system. But the rest of the cars are pretty much stock standard. So it's a great package. And you would tend to think that, of course, utes would be very taily in the rear end. But these things are very, very surprising, particularly around such a fast track as Mount Panorama.
3M Falcon coming back on the lift tray. That's the Ross Halliday Greg Crick car that was stranded out there during the 20-minute warm-up for the V8 Supercar 1000. Not a good way to start the day. Hopefully they can get that car sorted out and started for the big one.
Ryan Wilson, car 11. Got to get used to these nicknames. They've all got to have a control nickname. It's part of the sporting regulations.
Well, they should all be the same, shouldn't they?
Got some help there from the boys at Fern Tree Gully Holden, who I know will be watching the telecast today. The Quirks refrigeration entry, that is Damien the Iceman White. He's had a lot of experience in karting, and we saw him in Formula Ford.
Why do they call him the Iceman, Rusty?
Yes.
Just another quirk, I guess.
Earlier in the year, guys, we had the ute program, the drive day program we ran for Holden. And we had a heap of SS utes out there and all us crazies in these cars taking passengers. It was an absolutely fantastic, fun time. Backsliding around everywhere. It was hell of a lot of fun, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. So I'd love to be out there in one of them now, having a go with these guys.
You were saying just how positive the reaction to those days are, and it's almost as though they leave. You know, the people you take for rides on the day leave and head straight to the dealer, don't they? They're so impressed with them. So
they're actually getting out of the car with a cheque saying, "Where do I buy one of these things?"
Actually, I remember Jason Bargwine and King hitting some bloke in the back in a ute. Remember the Holden utes up at Hidden Valley?
So it's lovely weather today, isn't it?
yeah, it's funny you don't want to bring that story up.
Yeah.
So race 3, the RM Williams V8 Brute Muster, 6 laps around Mount Panorama. And could it be a Holden or will it be Ford? Amazing to see that the parity between these two cars, or two youth models, Jason, are so even, considering the Holden, of course, is a 5.7 litre 6-speed with an independent rear end, and the Falcon's really the 5 litre 200 kilowatt version with a 5-speed gearbox.
Well, obviously, it produces great racing, so who cares what engines or gearboxes or whatever is in them. I mean, at the end of the day, when they have a great race, two cars battling, you look at the front row, I mean, it looks fantastic, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. I like the guy last on the grid, though. He looked like he was lined up for a burnout.
Now, believe it or not, they're going to start this race with the crack of a stock whip rather than the tradition. Here we are. This is going to be the official start.
This category's really grown since the first demonstration race on the streets of Adelaide earlier this year. Back then there was only 10 cars, now 15 and continuing to grow. Another great Ford versus Holden battle. Damien White in the Falcon to the right of your screen. The left, Rod Wilson in the red Commodore. Keep in mind too that this race is only a short one, so we're going to see fireworks over the short distance.
So this is the warm-up lap they're about to head off on.
I don't think anyone... I'm not sure if I heard him crack the whip there. But they're off on the warm-up lap, getting ready for this great contest between the Ford and Holden utes. Effectively, you think about the performance of these cars, Craig, they're like Australia's two-seat sports cars, because in relation to the sedans, which are much heavier than a utility body, you've got the same engine and transmission specification and a much lighter body.
Absolutely, and very quick too. I mean, Grant was telling me that coming down through the chase, they got the speedo off the clock in the Falcon, and the speedo goes to 240k, so they're probably coming through the chase almost flat out at those kind of speeds. And it's quite surprising how quick they really are. Of course, they're turning out about, with the engine Motec management system, they're turning out about 230, 240 kilowatts. They're not that heavy compared to the sedan, so they really are quite spectacular.
We talked about parity yesterday during the course of the 2-hour showroom showdown. What sort of limitations are there and what sort of checks and balances are in place?
Everything is absolutely sealed. There's only one nominated engine builder. The engine is sealed, and by Wayne Park Automotive, who has come up really with the specs of these vehicles. Everything else is controlled. They run the same brake package, the same pad package, the same tyre, wheel package. There really is nothing they can do to it. They can't even get to the ECU engine management Motec system. That is a pro car program, and only we have access to the ECU, so it's very, very difficult to get around the rules and regulations.
So there's only one engine builder, is that right?
Yes, one nominated engine builder.
So we shouldn't have any suspicion surrounding Craig dropping off a whole lot of slabs of EB to Wayne Park's place.
Not at all, not at all. No, absolutely objective in this situation. I'm just
Grant's 7.8 litres going very well. Jace, while we're talking about this ute craze at the moment, bit of a development out of the Gary Rogers Motor Shop very recently. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, we've just, the boys have built their own ute, basically. It's a Holden special vehicle, if you like, in that it's a full-on V8 supercar ute, and the thing is fantastic. They stripped some parts out of an old VS and built some new bits to put in it, and it's an absolute rocket.
Nice, scary ride.
I haven't actually driven it yet, but...
I'm told Gary actually did the shakedown on it, is that right?
He did. He got out and he said, I want one of these for myself. I'm going to drive this around. So, no, he quite enjoyed it. He took it out to Calder and gave it a shakedown and gave some of the boys a hell of a ride, I've got to tell you. It's actually designed to be like a media vehicle, if you like, a bit of a ride car. Russell took some...
First, if that's all right.
Yeah, Russell took some blokes around yesterday in it, and I believe some of them got out with wanting some fresh underwear.
White knuckles. So you can see that weather conditions, that very strong breeze blowing across the mountains helping to dry this circuit, and there's certainly patches of sun coming through the cloud cover, so we might get some fine weather today.
A lot of teams have been looking very closely at the internet. You can get onto different websites which give you a pretty clear picture of the weather in and around Mount Panorama, and this morning we were having a look at one with one of the teams, and it was basically showing this massive storm heading in this direction, but perhaps that's starting to clear, which would be good news. We've had the most incredible weather in the lead up to today. It's been just beautiful since we arrived here on Wednesday, so let's hope it's the same for the V8 Supercar 1000 this afternoon. In the meantime, this is the RM Williams V8 Brute Muster. We've seen several rounds of the championship so far this year. Wakefield Park in Sydney kicked off with a demonstration race around the streets of Adelaide. And the enthusiasm and the interest in the series has just grown from there, hasn't it?
And some real characters too, like Charlie Handlebars Kovacs, who once won in the Guinness Book of Record for towing a caravan at 208 kilometres per hour in an EA Falcon.
And if you saw the bloke's moustache, you know why he's called Handlebars.
Well, Charlie had a big accident with the car, in fact, going to the last round at Sandown, where the car actually was involved in an accident on the road, was tipped upside down on the trailer and totally destroyed. So they've had a real big rebuild to get it here this weekend through Road and Track Services. So great to see that they've actually been able to make it back.
Caravan involved in that one?
No caravan involved in that one, no, Barks.
So what tyres are we on here, guys? What sort of tyres are they?
There's a control tyre. They're a Pirelli 17-inch. They're an all-weather tyre. They don't really have a lot of tread on them, so they are very greasy when it gets into conditions particularly like this or a bit wetter. But they're all on exactly the same rubber. They're not allowed to buff them. Buffing is not allowed in this series. So they've got maximum tread, and they have to run 2 new tyres for the start of every qualifying session and run those same 2 tyres on the front for the 3 races.
We've had a couple of special guests in this series during the year as well. Paul Morris, who's regularly at the wheel of the Big Kev Commodore, drove won and carved just about everybody up at Queensland Raceway at the Willowbank Round.
It would be like Paul Morris, wouldn't it?
Mick Donner, of course, a V8 supercar driver, also running this weekend. One of the favourites, had a problem with the gearbox in qualifying, so started from the back of the grid in race 1, worked his way forward, had a good result in race 2, and will be, I would think, along with Redline Wilson, Damien White, and Mick Donner, one of the stars in this race, certainly.
Set to go in the RM Williams V8 Brute Muster. 6 laps, the final of 3 races here on the mountain this weekend. Good start by Rod Wilson. Damien White has not made the best of it, but you can see he moves across to play defensive. The run towards the first corner. Look at Ice White having a go.
Redline Wilson has certainly done it well. White's the one to watch. On the outside, it's Mick Donner in the beautiful blue Ford. Mad Dog coming through. Ian McAllister, 3 abreast down the back of the field as well.
Very evenly matched. You can see the Commodore and the Falcon all locked together as they sweep out of that first turn. The charge up Conra. Mountain Straight, I should say, for the first time. Nice clean start for the RM Williams V8 Brute Muster.
You can expect them to get a little tail happy at times, but perhaps not as sideways as you might think. They run a lock diff in these utes, and they actually understeer a bit more than oversteer, which is a little bit of a surprise.
So Redline Wilson now, well and truly in command for Holden Barks. Ford right behind him though, and then another Ford, then another Ford, then another Holden.
Oh, it's all happening, guys. I've seen the 3 wide over the hump now. It's half wet on the side of the road. I'd hate to be out on that side of the road, but it looks quite good. I mean, it's sort of racing that I used to start off in production car type racing. This is the sort of what it is. Everyone's pretty even. You just got to try and drive as hard as you can, especially across the top of the mountain.
So that's just the attack flat out because they've got minimal mods. They've got plenty of power though, so it'd be a decent old ride.
Oh, fair. When I got in the warm-up this morning, it was actually quite wet in that section there, so to be arriving there and... That's big balls.
Aggressive man, Damien White. On the sheepdog on Damien.
No, it's good stuff. I mean, it's really not a passing opportunity there, but he obviously tried to have a go.
Very aggressive driver, Damien, and of course he's probably the most experienced guy in the field. He's done a number of 1,000k races around here, as has Rod Wilson. He's done a number of 1,000 Super Tour races, V8 races, so they're pretty well experienced at the top end of the field.
He was actually a little disappointed that he didn't pick up a ride this year in the V8 Supercar 1000, but still competing in the RM Williams V8 Brute Muster. 9 years since we've seen a ute campaigning on the mountain. Now we've got 15 of them in action.
It's amazing listening to that tyre squeal as they come down through the elbow there. It's almost like a soundtrack of one of the old black and white Bathurst films.
And this is where they pull 5th gear down here at the Falcon, about 240 k's through the chase. Absolutely flat out. Oh, and a big lock-up too from Wilson.
Hang on to it, buddy.
Grant Denier's been able to tag onto the back of this group by the looks of things, so a bit of a Congo line of 6 drivers fighting for the lead. Rod Wilson at the head of it. Look at Damien White, car 13, the Quirks Refrigeration Falcon.
It'll be flat spot Wilson now. Big brake lock-up coming down into the chase.
Whoa, Steve Robertson from the Gold Coast. Well and truly Nearly sideways.
So it's Wilson first across the line from Damien White. Donaher in third, Robinson in fourth. Darren Palmer, Grant Denyer in sixth. McDonald, McAllister, Kovacs and Young. That's the top 10.
It's Sunday morning, guys, in front of all the biggest teams in the country. We're at Bathurst. It's desperate stakes here. I reckon this is one of those races where the bloke in fourth could end up inheriting the lead like on the last corner. So
absolutely.
It's all going to happen.
0.2 of a second now between first and second. Wilson, White, Donaher, Robinson, Palmer, Denyer, McDonald, McAllister, Kovacs, Young, Brock, Gilbert, Darren McDonald, Cribben and Edge round out the 15 cars.
It's interesting when you talk about the different engines there, Craig. You talk about the Holden equipment, the 5.7-litre Chev engine and the Ford with the 5-litre. How do you get parity between two engines like that?
Well, the Ford's been given a camshaft to give it a lift, and they've both got engine management systems controlled by Motec, so you can button off the revs, you can button off the fuel mixtures to ensure that on the dyno, the engines are pretty much turning out the same package.
There's Denyer himself.
He's all over the back, all over the outside of the guy there. He's trying to have the big go.
Oh, the inside.
This is it. Where's this going to end up?
Cars punch over the top of the hill, drop down into past Reed Park toward McPhillamy. Wilson still in command from White, Donaher and Robinson. That's the quartet breaking away at the front. There's Grant Denyer in sixth spot.
There's not many passing positions across the top of the mountain there. Obviously, when you're so close to the guy in front, I mean, these cars are so even and it's very hard to overtake, but you kind of got a line to go up under brakes somewhere. I mean, that's probably your best bet, really, in this sort of situation.
And you've got a sense that something really is going to happen up the front here between Redline Wilson in the Commodore, now leading Damien in the Falcon, Donaher in the Falcon, and then Robinson.
Alan Grice ran the Holden Commodore Ute here back in 1992. Oh, as Damien White gets all crossed up.
He makes you nervous to watch, doesn't he?
Don't they look good coming down the mountain, sliding and floating and having a bit of a slide? It looks like a lot of fun.
Well, we set up this series really to be not all about motor racing, really all about showbiz entertainment, and that's why it's been set up the way it is. All the drivers have to have the nicknames, and we carry the theme and the entertainment all the way through.
So what do you reckon my nickname would be?
Elroy Jetson.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
So Redline Wilson with the Iceman comes down the inside, cool as ice, hard under brakes. Wilson wants to argue. They're almost going to go side by side, but a beautiful move by Damien White.
Classy move that.
There's Donaher.
Donaher now up on the curbs. He gets 2 wheels off on the grass, almost 3.
It's nice wet grass too.
So Wilson fighting hard for second place, but he's been taken by Donaher as well. Robinson's in there for a slice of the action in car 12.
So Ford has the upper hand. Damien White, your new leader, from Mick Donaher in third. The first of the Holdens in the hands of Rod Wilson. Ned Robinson, good gap back to next best, Darren Palmer. Grant Denyer's dropped a spot. He's back to 7th position behind Macca McDonald.
Oh, Wilson's got a good run out of that corner. Donna had a pretty slow exit. Wilson was able to pounce. Now they're going to go side by side. This is an uphill drag race along Mountain Straight between the Commodore and the Falcon. Look at them neck and neck. And Robinson jumps into the draft behind Donaher's car. They're going to try and punch through on the inside of the Commodore as they approach to GDX bend.
So I tell you what, there's nothing between them up the hill, is there?
He's on the wrong side there. He's obviously got to get across, but he hasn't done. He's left the gap wide open, yeah, so he's he had that position there, and he's...
Robinson sneaks up the inside of Wilson, so he's really under attack here by the 2 Fords, but he's beautifully positioned on the inside on the approach to the cutting. Up into the Ford cutting. Robinson in behind Redline. Battle amongst the Utes. Ice White it is in control from Mick Donaher, Rod Wilson, Robbo Robinson. A little bit of a gap back to Dazzler Palmer and the boss McDonald. Mad Dog Denyer and Macca McAllister.
It's all happening here on the mountain. Join us for more on the other side of this.
Becker's got
White, car 13, the Quirks Refrigeration Falcon leading the way from Mick Donaher, who won race 2 yesterday. It's been a battle between the Fords. They've managed to pull clear of Rod Wilson there in 3rd position with 2 laps remaining. I was going to say before the ad break that when Alan Grice drove the Holden Commodore back here in 1992, the Holden unit was about 165 kilowatts. These are punching out 240, so it's quite a change in that 8 or 9 years, isn't it?
And of course, what actually goes on these cars after about 4 or 5 laps of the brakes, they get so much heat in the front brakes. In fact, in qualifying, they're actually melting the lead wheel weights on the front tyres.
Fantastic.
The heat coming through for the brakes. And there's Mad Dog. He's obviously got some kind of problem. He's gone back through the field big time, so...
We hear from race control he may be leaking fuel.
Oh, look at that, underneath the car there.
Yeah, he's got a
coolant problem,
big
leak.
leak.
Or some kind of problem. So, yeah, a wise decision to come into the pits, I think, young Grant.
It's a shame.
Brought up in very humble beginnings by his family, of course, was forced to eat pet food at a very young age, and hence his desire to want to chase fast cars.
That's why he likes marrowbone jelly on his sandwiches.
Haven't been able to figure that out for some time. Now we know why.
You notice, guys, the cars are starting to slide around a little bit more now. Obviously, the tyres are starting to have a bit of a workout. The horsepower you're talking about going through the rear wheels, starting to cook the rear tyres a little bit, and the cars across, it's nice and close to the
Listen to the tyres, they're just tortured, aren't they, across the top there? They're screaming at every corner. Listen to this. They get such a pasting around here.
And you see the cars just sliding everywhere, four-wheel drifting. It's a lot of fun out there at the moment, I've got to tell you.
Jace, you seem very relaxed in the lead up to today's... Oh, Damien White, big lock-up coming down into the Victoria bit of dipper.
Feeling the pressure from Mick Donoghue. Really up behind it. These two Fords running away with this one. There's a 2-second gap back to Rod Wilson in third, the first of the corners. Look at the brake lock-ups. Donoghue goes down the inside, side by side out of the elbow. This is going to be a drag race, the full length of Conrod Straight. 2 kilometres down Conrod. Look at this.
You can bet that Damien White will not want to relinquish this position at all. He's going to make it as hard as he possibly can for Mick Donoghue. These guys almost came to blows, literally, at the recent round at Sandown. So who is going to give here? Donoghue is on the outside, not the place to be, coming into the chase, but he's not going to give in either. Side by side, into the Auto Vital chase, nothing in it. White gets up on the curb, and Donoghue moves through.
Don is good. Well done, what a great move. Side by side, down Conrod Straight. Damien White, though, he has a little
He's giving him a nudge.
little love kiss on the rear bumper. Donoghue knows he's going to try a run down the inside, so he moves to the inside line. 1 lap remaining. 6.2 kilometres of racing around Mount Panorama. Who's going to win this one?
Here we go.
Damien goes wide on the exit of Cougar Corner. They touch. Wow.
Mick Donoghue has lost his, well, he certainly adjusted his driver's side mirror.
Where's Don King when you need him? It's on between these two guys.
And again, Commodores in third spot in Rod Wilson, Steve Robbo back there in fourth, then Gary McDonald, Darren Palmer, Charlie Kovacs.
Already sporting some body damage as it is.
Look at Rod Wilson closing here as well in the background in the Commodore.
Damien White getting foot flat to the floor. Donoghue wants to go with him. These two cars identical. And look at Rod Wilson now. As a result of this fisticuffs at the front, he's clawed his way right back into the battle for the lead. Side by side again through XR8 bend up toward the cutting. Rod Wilson's getting a sniff of the lead here. They're almost going to go 3 wide on the approach to the cutting.
He's lost some track position there, Mick Donoghue. Rod Wilson's on the outside. That's not the spot to be. As they head into the cutting, Donoghue shuts the door.
Final time up the hill. 2 Fords and a Holden. There's a bit of a gap back to Robinson and McDonald fighting over 4th place. And this has allowed Mick Donoghue just a little bit of breathing space. He's got Rod Wilson breathing right down his neck. Damien White has opened up a few car lengths now. Fantastic racing in the RM Williams V8 Brutes on Mount Panorama. Hugely popular. You can hear the crowd screaming as these cars come round.
Good driver, Damien White. He's very underrated. In fact, been picked up by Peter Boylan, the Quirks team this year. And he's had a hot and cold career, Damien. Finished 17th in his first ever Bathurst 1000, raced in the Nürburgring 24-hour race. 3rd in his first or second Formula Ford race at Phillip Island some years ago. So he's quite a good little steerer.
This is not over. Yeah, final attack from Mick Donoghue. He's not finished with yet. They've got to go run down Conrad. Oh, Damien White's got very wide on the exit.
Oh, he got so close to the wall there.
You know that bit of road there, Jabarks, quite well.
I just noticed here that Mick Donoghue has caught up a lot going over the top of Skyline. That's probably just the fact he's had more miles here this weekend. It's the sort of circuit where you really need the more experience really helps.
Very quickly, I know you haven't had a lot of laps, but you seem very relaxed in the lead up to the defence of the Bathurst Crown.
Yeah, I got a quick run of the car yesterday, and the car is really good. I reckon it's better than last year's car. So here we go.
Donoghue looks up the inside and makes the move too. What will Damien White do in response to this? We're on our way home.
Oh, sorry, she's all over now.
Final corner coming up. Final turn for these two. They've been at it, hammer and tong, since the start of this race. Donoghue moves over to cover his line. Damien White running out of options. Big brake lock on that. Donoghue has blown it in the final corner. He grips the wall.
Stakes victory. Second place to Rod Wilson.
Wow.
The final turn. Shades of the 2 hour yesterday.
Can you believe that?
Dear.
McDonough just had it all covered. He locked up the brakes, just went a little bit too deep into Cougar Corner, and that cost him the race.
I think he was looking in the mirror and said about the windscreen on that one.
One very bent falcon for that man right there, Mick Donoghue, but it's Damien White who takes it out from Rod Wilson. Robinson in third. McDonald finishes in fourth ahead of Palmer. There's Donoghue. He got back to finish in sixth position ahead of Young and Charlie Kovacs. Stay with us here on the mountain. More action right after this.
For a 6.2 kilometre circuit, Mount Panorama doesn't have a very long home straight, but gee, it looked a long way to Mick Donoghue as he led and then threw away the Brute event. RM Williams Brutes, fantastic entertainment here. Gee, the mountain can produce very special occasions, and for Mick Donoghue, well, it was special, but not so great. Now,